Testing, testing. To automatically publish events to your social media accounts via Buffer, we need to configure the WordPress to Buffer Pro plugin first of all. To do this, we load the settings screen within the plugin, and then we'll click the Events tab towards the top of the screen. Once the interface is loaded, we're presented with some default options, and these determine the status messages to send to Buffer and therefore your social media accounts, depending on whether we're publishing or updating an event. For now, we're going to go ahead and enable the default publish options, and you'll see we have the status message that will be sent to Buffer whenever a new event is published on your WordPress website. In this case, we've got the text new event followed by two tags, one called title and one called URL. These are dynamically replaced by the event's title and the event's URL. Below that, we've got the scheduling option set to add this status message to the end of your buffer queue. The final thing that we need to do is determine which social media accounts we'd like to send this update to. In this case, we're going to use our Twitter account, and so we tick the account enabled option on the tab for our Twitter account here. Finally, we'll click save, and we'll see on-screen confirmation that our settings have been saved successfully. We'll go ahead and test this by creating a new event on our WordPress website, and this is using the Events Calendar plugin. So we've clicked on Events and Add New. We type in a title for our event, and we'll put some content in as well. We can define the start and end date of the event, and when we're happy with the information that we've provided, we can go ahead and click on the Publish button. And after a few moments, we can see that not only is the event published, but WordPress to Buffer Pro also tells us that this event has been added to Buffer. So looking at our buffer queue, we can see that our event has been added, and the title has been replaced with My First Event, and the URL of the event is also being added to the post. Because we've configured the plugin to add this status to the end of our buffer queue, we can see it's been added here. If we had other statuses scheduled on this queue, this one would appear further down the list. Another way we can configure WordPress to Buffer Pro is to send multiple status messages to Buffer when an event is published. This can be useful if, for example, your event is several weeks in advance and you'd like to remind your audience of an upcoming event more than once. To do this, we click on the Settings option within the plugin, click on the Events tab, and we are presented with the screen we see here. So far we have one status defined, which is the new event, followed by the title and the URL, but we might want to add another status update. So to do this, we click on the Add Status Update button, and we will see a second status display here. We can alter the text. Again, we've got the scheduling option to add this to the end of our buffer queue. So let's go ahead and save those settings, and let's publish a new event. And let's set an event date. And when we're happy with the content, click on the Publish button. Once again, we can see that the event has been published, and WordPress to Buffer Pro has also added this event to Buffer. Let's go and look at the buffer queue to see what happened. Our buffer queue now has two status updates for our Twitter account: the new event status, and then the in case you missed it status. And this corresponds with the two status messages that we set within the plugin. When creating a new event on our WordPress website, we might want our social media status to include some helpful information about that event. And we can do this with WordPress to Buffer Pro and the Events Calendar. We can click on Settings in the WordPress to Buffer Pro plugin, and then the Events tab towards the top of the screen. And we'll see here some previous settings that we were using whenever we published a new event on our website. Display the new event text followed by the event's title and URL. However, we might want to tell our social media audience more about the event, such as when it starts, when it finishes, and perhaps a link to the event's location. To do this, we can use the insert tag functionality, and clicking on the drop down shows some specific settings for the event's calendar. We've got the event start date and start time, the end date and end time, the event cost if there is one, URL to the event site, and the Google Maps link as well. So let's go ahead and add the event's start date, and we'll see here it's added a specific tag to our status, and we can perhaps word this a little bit better as well. Let's also go ahead and put the end date, and again click on the drop down event end date, and when we're happy with our status we click on the save button. Let's go ahead and create a new event and see how this looks. We'll define the title, the start date of the event, let's say the 15th, and the end date being the 22nd. Once we're happy with everything on here, we can go ahead and click the publish button. We can see the event is now published and that WordPress to Buffer Pro has also added this event to Buffer. Let's go and look at our buffer queue. Looking at our buffer queue, we can see that our status has been scheduled for our Twitter account. We've got the event name, the URL, as well as some information regarding the start date and end date. We can also configure WordPress to Buffer Pro to schedule social media updates through Buffer when you update an event. And to do this, we again click on the Events tab within the plugin. And this time we'll be looking to configure the defaults update section. So we click the enabled option, and we can see we have a status message of updated event, and again the title and URL will be dynamically replaced. And once more we have the option to schedule this status message to the end of our buffer queue. And if we scroll back to the top, we can confirm that our Twitter account is enabled. It has the green tick, so we'll go ahead and click on save. Once our settings have been saved, we can go over to the Events Calendar plugin, and let's say we need to update the title of the event because we made a mistake. So we edit the event, we edit the title, we might want to alter some content, maybe we will alter the date and time, and once we're happy with the alterations that we've made, we click on the update button. After a few moments, we can see that the event has been updated and WordPress to Buffer Pro has added this event to Buffer. So let's go to our Buffer account and see where that status is. As you can see, the updated event has now been added to our buffer queue, and the title, which we changed, has also been updated here. We've previously explored how WordPress to Buffer Pro can schedule a social media status update to one or more social media accounts through Buffer whenever we update an event. However, there may be a more urgent need to send that event immediately to social media rather than scheduling the update. For example, there's a change of venue, or the date or the name of the event has been updated. So in the WordPress to Buffer Pro plugin, we can click on the Events tab and scroll down to the default update section, enable it, and we can see here we previously configured WordPress to Buffer Pro to schedule a social media update to the end of your buffer queue whenever an event was updated. What we want to do this time is select the Post Immediately option. And what this does is it tells Buffer, rather than scheduling a status update when you update an event on your WordPress website, that status needs to immediately be published to your social media accounts. In this case, we've got the Twitter account enabled. So we'll go ahead and save that. And let's edit an existing event to demonstrate how this works. We'll edit the super event, and in brackets we'll just put renamed. We'll click on the update option, and we can see that the event has been updated and WordPress to Buffer Pro has added this event. Let's go ahead and look at Buffer. You'll notice that there's no status update on your buffer queue, but that's to be expected. We told the plugin to post this status immediately to our Twitter account. So we can go ahead and look at our Twitter account, and we can see here that our updated event, my super event renamed, has been added to Twitter. A more useful way of scheduling social media status updates for an event would be to use the event's start date. For example, we might want to tell our social media audience about an upcoming event 3 days and 7 days before the event starts. To do this, we go into the plugin, click on Settings, and then click on the Events tab. And we see here the two status messages that we had before. And previously, we were simply adding these status updates to the end of our buffer queue. So they would be scheduled based on your buffer's settings. What we can do here instead is use the drop-down option, and we can see here we've got two options for the events calendar, relative to the event start date and relative to the event's end date. So let's go ahead and click this option here. We're now given some additional features that we need to define. And what we tell the plugin to do is to schedule this status to be published onto the Twitter account 3 days before the event start date. We define the number of days and we select before event date. For our second status, we'll again use the event calendar relative to the event start date, but this time we want this to be 7 days before the event start date. Once we're happy with that, we click on Save, and let's go ahead and create a new event. We'll define a title, and we'll set the date for the 30th. What this means, by selecting the event start date as being the 30th of April, is that our two status updates will be 3 days before and 7 days before this date, not the date that we publish the event. So to demonstrate that, we'll go ahead and publish, and let's go ahead and look at buffer. So as you can see, the blue mark here denotes that we have scheduled this status update at a specific time. And in this case, we wanted one of our statuses to be 7 days before the 30th of April. So we can see here Monday the 23rd is 7 days before, and our status has been scheduled. And then our second status was 3 days before. And we can see here that on Friday the 27th, 3 days before the 30th, we've got another status update that's been scheduled.